our shirt on Teespring.
Look, turn on any conservative news channel and you'll hear it. It's a story told with the breathless urgency of a disaster movie trailer. They're silencing us, is the cry. Your uncle sharing questionable memes, prominent Republican politicians. They believe a vast, coordinated censorship campaign targets them. The main culprits: Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, YouTube, posts hidden, accounts suspended, voices squelched by Silicon Valley overlords. Content moderation is the evidence they point to. Social platforms flagging COVID-19 misinformation. Platforms flagging 2020 election misinformation. Many conservatives saw flags as attacks on their views. The suspension of high-profile accounts, Trump after January 6th, became the smoking gun. To many, this looked like a politically motivated purge. This feeling is widespread. A 2022 Pew study, 71% of Republicans think platforms censor viewpoints, not fringe, mainstream conservative belief. But research tells a different story. NYU and others found conservative content is often among the most shared and most engaged. When accounts are penalized, it's often because they spread content flagged as misinformation. The algorithm doesn't flag "I love lower taxes." It flags dangerous misinformation. For example, drink bleach-style posts. Platforms say they're fighting fires. Many on the right say they're burning down the house. So is it bias or clumsy moderation? Probably messy in between. Moderation is less surgical precision and more brain surgery with oven mitts. Mistakes happen and can look like a pattern. For those who feel targeted, perception of bias is powerful and it deepens distrust across the country. Now let's talk about cancel culture, a term that has become so overused it's basically the pumpkin spice latte of political grievances. For many conservatives, cancel culture is the social enforcement arm of censorship. It's the online mob that descends when someone says something deemed unacceptable, leading to public shaming, calls for them to be fired and deplatforming. They see it as a modern-day witch hunt, total social and professional annihilation. From this perspective, it's a terrifying new form of social control that stifles free thought, forces everyone into a narrow box of acceptable opinions. It feels like censorship, even if the government isn't the one doing the canceling. This is where we need to have a little chat about the First Amendment because it's probably the most misunderstood part of the U.S. Constitution. It says, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, "Congress shall make no law," abridging the freedom of speech. The key words there are Congress and law. The First Amendment protects you from the government throwing you in jail for criticizing it. It does not protect you from your boss firing you for posting something wildly inappropriate or from Twitter, X, banning you for violating its rules. A private company like a social media platform or a TV network is not the government. It's more like a private club with its own set of rules. You don't have a constitutional right to be there. So, when conservatives complain about being censored by Facebook, they're not talking about a First Amendment violation in the legal sense. They're talking about what they see as a violation of the spirit of free speech. They argue that because these platforms have become the modern public square, they should be treated as such and not be allowed to pick and choose which voices get heard. Critics, on the other hand, argue that this is just speech having consequences. If you say something offensive or spread harmful lies, other people have the right to respond by not wanting to associate with you or not giving you a platform. To them, that isn't censorship, it's accountability. Interestingly, this argument can get a bit tangled. While many conservatives decry cancel culture, critics point out instances where they seem to engage in it themselves. Backlash against Disney for taking a stance on social issues, calls to boycott Bud Light, efforts in some red states to ban certain books from school libraries. From the other side, this looks an awful lot like trying to punish speech you don't like. This highlights the fundamental disagreement. One person's fight for accountability is another person's act of censorship. The definition of cancel culture really depends on whose ox is being gored. Ah, the American university, a place once known for cheap beer, questionable life choices, now often portrayed as a terrifying ideological battleground. For many conservatives, college campuses are ground zero for the war on free speech. They see them as dominated by left-wing faculty and students who are hostile to conservative ideas. The narrative: conservative students are afraid to speak up in class, fear of being ostracized, fear of getting bad grades. Conservative speakers invited to campus are sometimes shouted down by protesters. That's often called the heckler's veto. These incidents, critics say, prove universities have become echo chambers for progressive orthodoxy. A key part of the concern: safe spaces and bias incident reporting systems. To conservatives, these feel like Orwellian tools to shut down speech that makes people uncomfortable. A safe space, in that view, shields students from challenging ideas. Critics say it creates a generation of fragile snowflakes. University administrators and many on the left disagree. They argue safe spaces aren't about hiding from ideas, rather, they create environments where marginalized students feel welcome and able to participate. They say bias reporting isn't for punishing dissent, it's to track patterns of harassment and discrimination. The goal isn't to stop someone arguing for lower taxes, it's to address attacks, like when a student is targeted with racial slurs. The aim, safe from harassment, not safe from ideas. The data is complicated. Surveys show many conservative students report self-censoring in class. But studies also show students across the political spectrum, including many on the left, self-censor out of fear of social judgment. That suggests the issue may be a broader campus culture of conflict avoidance. The debate is a perfect storm of generational anxiety, political polarization, and different ideas about the purpose of a university. Is it to confront uncomfortable ideas, or to protect vulnerable students? Right now, nobody seems to agree. So, after all this, are conservatives actually being censored? The answer, unsatisfyingly, is, it's complicated. If we're talking about government censorship in the First Amendment sense, then no, not really. But if we're talking about a feeling of being culturally silenced and socially punished for their beliefs, then yes, many conservatives absolutely feel that way, and that feeling is a political force in itself. They perceive a world where the rules of acceptable speech are being rewritten by a culture they don't control and don't agree with. And whether that perception is 100% accurate is almost beside the point, because that feeling is real, and it's driving a massive wedge in American society. This debate matters so much because it's fundamentally about power. It's about who gets to set the terms of public conversation. For decades, a certain brand of conservative thought was comfortably in the mainstream. Now, with demographic and cultural shifts, that is changing. The feeling of being censored is, for some, a reaction to losing a position of cultural dominance. For others on the right, it is a genuine fear that foundational principles of free expression are being eroded by a new, intolerant illiberalism on the left. It's a struggle over who gets to define the boundaries of acceptable public discourse in a rapidly changing country. On the other side, for those who push for stronger content moderation and who challenge offensive speech, this isn't about censorship at all. It's about creating a more equitable public square. They argue that for too long, free speech has been used as a shield to protect harassment, bigotry, and dangerous misinformation that disproportionately harms marginalized communities. For them, creating consequences for harmful speech isn't an attack on freedom, it's a necessary step toward building a society where everyone can participate safely. They see it as punching up, not punching down. Ultimately, this entire exhausting argument is a symptom of our deeply polarized era. We no longer share a common understanding of what words like censorship, free speech, and harm even mean. One side sees a necessary defense against dangerous lies, the other sees a tyrannical effort to silence dissent. And as long as private companies and universities are stuck in the middle, trying to navigate this minefield, they will continue to be accused of bias by all sides. Finding a way through this requires us to do something we're terrible at right now, listening to why the other side feels the way it does, even if, and especially if, we think they're completely and utterly wrong. Good luck with that.